Hey, this is Rob from Recent Prep. So if you've just received your SAT score report, you might be looking through it trying to figure out what the heck it all means. So in this video, I want to give you 5 insights that you can uncover when you take a close look at your SAT score report. So let's go ahead section by section. There's 2 insights in the reading, 1 in the math, and 2 in the writing. So let's start with the reading. And here you can see on the screen, we've got a sample from a score report. There's 2 things you want to look for when you're looking at the reading section. The first is how well you did on the sentence completions, and you're looking at this number right here, the number correct in the sentence completion. Now, if this is anything around 14 or higher, that's probably not the reason why you got the score you got, because most of the time, this is the second thing to look for, most of the time where you're going to run into your issues is in your passages. Most students miss many more questions in their passages than they do in the sentence completions. So really what you want to look for is to look at the passage-based reading, look at the number wrong and the number omit. First thing, you want to make sure the number omit in the passages is 0. Because there's really, unless you're running out of time, which is not really an excuse, you never want to omit a question, because almost always you should be able to eliminate at least 2 or 3 choices, which means you should be guessing. So if you have a ton of omits, or even 1 omit in this passage-based reading part, that's something you want to work on. You want to get that to 0. But in terms of the number wrong, you want to look down at if you look deeper into the report, you'll see a breakdown based on difficulty. And what you especially want to look at in the passages is the number of easy and medium that you either got wrong or omitted. And most of the time, again, it really depends on what your score is and the breakdown, but for most students, they have a bunch of questions that they've missed in the easies and mediums and passages. And if that's you, if you see that in your report, then this is something that you're going to want to work on, because that's a lot of points and they're very gettable points. You can work on them and attain them much more easily than, say, working on vocabulary. So if you see a 14 plus in your sentence completions, you can probably ignore those for now, focus on your passages. If you see less than 14, especially if you're in the 10, 9, or 8 region, then it may be worth it to study some vocabulary and do some additional practice. But for most of you, as long as you're around 14 plus, that's good for now. The main thing you're going to want to focus on in that situation is in the medium and easy questions of the passages. Let's take a look at the math. So the main thing to look for in the math, the main insight, our third insight for this video, is, again, you can see a common theme, the easy and medium questions. Go to the breakdowns that were missed. And you can see for this particular score report, this student missed quite a few easy and medium questions. And that's where you're going to want to spend your time and your effort over the next days, months, whatever time you've got left, because those are very attainable points. So if you're in the 500s, 400s, 500s, low, 400s and 500s, probably you're missing a bunch of easy and medium questions. If you're not, if you're in the 600s or in the 700s, what you're going to want to look for then is the number of hard questions that you've missed. Now, if you are in this situation where you've got a bunch of easy and medium questions that you've missed, that's what you want to work on first. Don't worry about these hards. Once you can clean up on those easy and mediums, then worry about the hardest of the hard questions, because there's no sense in working on the hardest questions when you've got a lot of easy ones or easier ones left behind. So work on those first. Finally, there's 2 things we can look for in the writing section. First, for the grammar, again, common theme here, look at your easy and mediums. A lot of students, if they're looking at their writing section, a big chunk of points they're losing because, again, of easy and medium questions. So you want to make sure that that's something that you can work on. You continue to improve that. As well, just like with the math, or the reading, we want to make sure that you have 0 omits in this section as well. The number of omits for the math and the number of omits in the sentence completions and the reading depends on your score goals, and that's a specific, different issue. And I'll leave a link in this video to a discussion of the kinds of things you want to omit and how many questions you want to do from each section, depending on your score goal. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But for pretty much any student, you want to have 0 omits here. 0 omits here, and you want to make sure you can maximize your score on the easy and mediums. Once you've done that, then you can start worrying again about the hardest of the hard questions, but not until you get those easy and medium questions down. The final thing to look at is the essay score. If you're at an 8, well, if you're at a 7 or below, you can do a lot of good by trying to improve your essay to at least an 8. And it's not that hard to improve your essay to at least an 8 if you know the kinds of things that can get you that score. If you're already at an 8, or if you're at, let's say, a 9 or a 10, The essay really isn't probably the big issue for you. You have to look again here, look and see if you're missing a lot of medium and easy questions in the grammar. If you are, that's where you spend your time. But if you're in the situation where you've gotten most of the easy and medium questions, and let's say you're at a 9 or 10 in the essay, maybe then it's worth working on the essay. But for most students, once you're at around a 10 is a really solid score. You can get an 800 on the section with a 10. For most students, what you have to pay attention to is the grammar breakdown, the grammar multiple choice. So spend your time on that. So let's review these 5 things to look for very quickly. Sentence completions, you want to make sure that that is hopefully 14 and above. If it's not, you'll probably want to work on that a little bit. Really, the main thing to focus on, though, is the passages. Make sure you're omitting 0 passage questions. And when you look at the breakdowns, if you're missing a lot of easy and medium reading questions, that's going to be where you want to spend your practice time. In the math section, the main thing to look for is the easy and medium questions, especially if you're in the 400s and 500s. That's going to be where you're going to spend your time, and that's where the most profitable effort is going to come from, is if you focus on those easy and medium questions. Once you've got those down, then you can start worrying about hards, but not until you figure out those easy and mediums. And then finally, for the writing, again, make sure you've got 0 omits in your multiple choice. Make sure you focus on those easy and mediums. That's where a lot of students miss points. Once you figure those out, then you can worry about the hards, same as in the math. And then finally, for the essay, if you're at a 7 or below, that might be something you want to work on to get it to at least an 8. If you are at an 8, a 9, or a 10, the goal really is to get to a 10. I mean, if you can get to an 11 or 12, that's great. But with a 10, that's a nice target. It's very attainable for most students, and you can get a really good score if you get that 10. Getting an 11 or 12 isn't as important as doing as best as you can on the grammar section. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you notice something in your score report, you want to share it, you got a question about it, let me know, and I'd be happy to respond. So, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. To learn more about Reason Prep's SAT, SAT subject test, and ACT video courses, go to reasonprep.com/enroll, and you can find the link in the description below the video.